Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here and welcome back to another Monster Hunter Cross video and another episode of the Weapon Workshop. We're on to episode 7 now, which means we are exactly halfway through the weapons. There are of course 14 in total, and so far we've taken a look at the Sword and Shield, the Hammer, Insect Glaive, Great Sword, Charge Blade and most recently the Lance. But in this episode we are turning our attention to the Longsword. Once again, you guys know the deal by now, we're going to kick things off in guild style, as this will be most familiar to those of you coming over from Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. The main difference off the bat is of course that you have access to 2 hunting arts, and as you'll find out later on in this episode, the Longsword has some pretty awesome ones. But starting from the top, with your weapon sheathed, pushing forward an X will perform a draw attack, which is a downward slash. This is also the same move that you perform simply by pressing X whilst idle. Pressing X twice will chain 2 of these downward slashes together, but that is as far as your standalone X combo goes. In order to continue that combo, we're going to need something else. Pressing A will perform a poke, and again on its own that is as far as the A combo goes. But combine both X and A together and this is where things get interesting. After an A poke, if you press X you'll perform an upward slash, and this is the link you need to tie everything together. So your bread and butter and by extension infinite combo goes something like this. X, X, A, X, X, A, X, X, A. You get the idea. This can be chained continuously, and if you can successfully find an opening to pull this off, you'll charge your meter in no time, which is something we'll get to in just a moment. Before that, it's important to note that you can roll out of pretty much any attack should you need to end the combo prematurely. Alternatively, you can resort to using a fade slash. Pressing X and A together will perform a fade slash, and with no directional input, this will slash in front of you whilst moving you backwards. You're not invincible whilst doing this, but it can be used to put some distance between you and a monster. Alternatively, if you input a direction whilst pressing X and A, you can then fade slash either left or right. Something that was introduced in the last Monster Hunter game, pressing R after a fade slash will perform this run-in slash. You follow the back hop with an advancing wide slash which puts you straight back in the action. And as you'll see in a moment, it's also a spirit combo shortcut. After the run-in slash, you can also press X to perform an upward slash, but that is as far as the combo goes. And again, should you need to, you can also fade slash out of pretty much any move. Roll or fade, the option is entirely up to you. Now let's talk about the spirit gauge, because this is what makes this weapon special. See, attacking a monster will fill the gauge you see at the top of your screen. When it's not quite full, then out of combat it will deplete pretty quickly. But once it's full, it'll remain so for a short period of time, or until you begin draining it with spirit combos. Also, whilst the bar is full and flashing like this, you also gain an attack boost. Now pressing R without any spirit gauge will perform a single slash. But if you press R when the spirit gauge is full, it will allow you to go into the full 4-hit spirit combo. In order to pull off all hits successfully, you must have a full gauge, but doing so will end in this really wide roundhouse slash that will put your weapon away. And this final 4th hit is the most important one in the combo, because landing this hit will make your gauge glow. First it glows white, then after a second successful spirit combo it'll glow yellow, and after one more, red. White gives you a 5% attack increase, yellow 10% and red 20%. And new to Monster Hunter Cross, when your red gauge runs out it will no longer drop down to the original colourless state, but will instead drop down to yellow, and from yellow to white, so basically Longsword in Monster Hunter Cross is a lot more forgiving. However, returning to the spirit combo for a second, pressing R 4 times is not the only way to complete the combo. Your alternative option, if you're in need of a little bit more gauge to complete the combo, is that you can put X in between the first 2 hits. So you could go R, X, R, X, R, R. Each of the X inputs will generate a little bit more spirit energy, and that will usually be enough to fill up the remaining part you need to pull off the all-important final hit. Alternatively, after a fade slash run-in, you can instead begin the spirit combo at spirit 3, so you can skip the first 2 hits, in turn saving time and requiring a little less gauge. So to do that one, it's simply X and A, R, R, and then R. Whichever way you decide to do it, as I'm sure you can now see, your first priority in battle should always be to get your glowing gauge. Red wherever possible, but if you're pressured, then at least white or yellow. Now finally, before we check out the other styles, let's take a quick look at jump attacks. Jumping off a ledge and pressing X will perform a simple slash. However, provided that you have spirit gauge, then you can also press R whilst airborne to begin your spirit combo, and upon landing, you can then complete the combo. Now once again, the initial draw for Striker is always your ability to use 3 hunting arts, and the Longsword has some amazing arts to choose from, but we'll take a look at them at the end of the video. In the meantime, what about changes? Well, in all honesty, Striker Longsword doesn't really lose much, and depending on how long you've been playing Monster Hunter 4, this might not actually bother you too much. First of all, you have no sideways fade slash. Your fade slash can only go backwards, not left, not right, but if you use Longsword back in Freedom Unite or Monster Hunter Tri, then this won't really come as a shock to you. In fact, Unite and Try were the Monster Hunter games where I personally mained longsword, so to me this is just like the old days. However, one of the slightly bigger losses is the lack of the run-in slash after the fade slash. Pressing R after a fade slash will now no longer perform the run-in slash, meaning you no longer have a shortcut to Spirit 3 in your Spirit combo. Again, if you came from Unite or Try, this won't really be a problem for you, but if it's something you used a lot in 4 Ultimate, then you might consider this a big loss. Either way, that is literally all there is to it. Everything else is exactly the same. So access to 3 powerful hunting arts and a pretty much identical moveset, not bad at all. Aerial, on the other hand, is a little bit different, but that's to be expected. First off, you only have access to 1 hunting art, so be wise with your choice. Also, your multi-directional fade slash is back, meaning you can now fade back, left and right. However, once again, you don't have access to the run-in slash after the fade slash, but the other, much more drastic change is that you can no longer initiate a spirit combo from the ground. This now has to be done in the air. Pressing R whilst on the ground simply does, well, nothing. If you jump off a monster, a teammate or a bomb and press X, this will perform a double slash in the air, which is quite handy for building meter in your spirit gauge. However, pressing R on the other hand will initiate your spirit combo, but the outcome depends heavily on the state that you're in. If your gauge is not glowing, i.e. you don't have white, yellow or red, then pressing R will simply begin the spirit combo, and upon landing you can finish it, ending in the conventional roundhouse slash. And as always, landing this final strike will make your gauge glow. So think of the airborne spirit attack as Spirit 1, and the follow-up attacks on the ground as 2, 3 and 4. However, if your gauge is already glowing, then pressing R will again perform a Spirit Slash, but pressing R one more time once landing will perform the final hit, meaning you can jump straight from white to yellow or yellow to red. So in short, when using Aerial Longsword, your biggest challenge comes from getting your white gauge, but once you have that, you have an express ticket to yellow and red. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but once you adapt, it's pretty good fun. Once again, much like Aerial, Bushido only allows the use of 1 hunting art, so make sure you choose wisely. Now with Bushido style, your first change comes in the form of your fade slash. See, a neutral fade slash input will now make you hop left instead of back. The backwards fade slash does not exist in Bushido. You can however input a right direction to hop right, but either way you're only going left or right with this one and not back. However, that is because we're in Bushido style. It's all about getting into the action and not away from it. On top of that, your regular spirit combo no longer has a finisher, meaning you cannot use this combo to level up your gauge. It is instead simply used for damage, which is a pretty interesting concept, especially when you learn how easy it is now to level your gauge up. See, after performing a successful Bushido evade by diving through a monster's attack, if you run towards the monster and press X, you'll perform this wide slash. But if you then press R after this slash, you'll perform 2 hits, and the final hit will instantly level up your gauge if it connects. So no lengthy spirit combo, no need to max out your spirit gauge, simply perform a Bushido evade, then press X and then R, and provided the last attack hits, you've got white. Do it again, yellow, and then red, you get the idea. That now means that once you have maxed out your gauge and you have full meter, you can literally spam your spirit combo purely for damage and not worry about using it to fill your meter. Also, anytime you sneak in an extra evade and pull off that last hit, you're just keeping your meter topped up. So with Bushido, if you're aggressive enough, it's actually very easy to maintain red gauge for the entire fight. Now let's talk about arts. As previously mentioned, the longsword has 3 pretty outstanding ones, so these alone are a reason to consider using striker style. Your first art, Sakura Spirit Slash, is a spinning slash where you lunge forward, slashing twice, and with each hit you leave an extra slash behind. Plus, hitting with either of the slashes will level up your spirit gauge by 1. Alternatively, you have Spirit Release Full Moon Slash, which once activated will max out your spirit gauge and keep it at a max state for a short period of time, allowing you to spam out your spirit combo. And if you're using this in Bushido style, then this is simply your ticket to a damaging combo, but in the other styles this is also your ticket to leveling up your gauge. And finally, Mirror Flower Stance is a counter art. You take this stance, and if you're hit during this, you'll parry and perform a devastating counter attack. Now unlike last week, this time round it's really a very easy choice. Admittedly, all styles with longsword are great, but Bushido is where it really shines. It almost feels like Bushido style was made for longsword. It just feels so fluid, so natural, and the speed at which you level up your gauge is absolutely insane. So while I can quite comfortably make use of striker style, having played Unite and Try, and the ability to grab all 3 of those arts is an added bonus, I would still always go with Bushido style hands down. But again, as I say every single week, the choice is ultimately down to you. You've got to play with it, try it out, work out what works for you, and then make your choice. And that, my friends, is pretty much it. That is it for this week's workshop. Make sure you tune in next Wednesday for the next episode. And if you did enjoy the video, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below, let me know if you enjoyed it. And thanks for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.